Monkeys are the funniest animals on the planet, and that's a fact. But for some reason, Game Freak hates monkeys. How do I know this? Well, look at all the monkey Pokemon they've ever made. They all suck, except maybe those two. But my point still stands. And that's why today I decided to show Game Freak they should give more love to monkeys by beating Pokemon Violet using only monkey Pokemon. As if beating this game with this horrible selection of creatures wasn't tough enough, I'm also going to be playing with a ton of extra rules on top to make this challenge even more difficult. So let's get into it. I get ready for my big first day at school by choosing a starter. To be honest, we're going to be switching out whatever we choose with the monkey, so I'm not even going to show you our choice. My rival Nemona decides to challenge me like an idiot with Sprigatito, and Fuecoco uses Ember to torch that overgrown cabbage. With our first victory acquired, we take a little tumble down a gigantic cliff, then end up rewarding our Fuecoco for its hard work by feeding him to a giant lizard and picking up a Chimchar, who I named Pyrochimp. Now that we have our first hot monkey, it's time to farm. We follow the lizard through the cave and back to its owner, Arven, who rewards us for our good deed by immediately coming for our throat. Our fire monkey wins by spamming Scratch, leaving Arven the chipmunk in shambles. From here, I start farming some Shroodles and catch one to add to our team. Second monkey acquired. Well, kinda. He doesn't look much like a monkey now, but you just wait and see what happens when it evolves. I name him Venomunk because he's a monkey that shoots venom. Then I hear a distant cough and know that Nemona is back and hungry for a battle before school. She uses Sprigatito, but I choose Fire Monkey. I have the type advantage here, so after Chimchar uses Ember, I almost beat Sprigatito in one hit. Nemona uses Tail Whip and I respond with Ember, and after 2 turns, Sprigatito turns into grilled lettuce. Yuck. But Nemona has learned from her mistakes and caught a second Pokemon, sending out her Pawmi, who goes for the illegal hat move. We go back and forth using Ember and Thundershock, and on 9 HP, Chimchar pulls out a dub. Now it's time to head to Mesagoza, where we meet Team Team Star. I intervene and save this poor little nerd from being bullied by these nefarious 9-year-olds, but they lash out and force us into a battle. They open with Shroodle and I go with Chimchar, who takes it out easily. After saving our new friend, I guess, we head into school. Here we learn about all the different goals and objectives of the game, which is basically 18 different big battles against all manner of creature, criminal, and captain. Then we head outside where we find that the big lizard is now a motorcycle. How convenient. With our new ride, our first stop was Cortando Gym. Once we heal up our Pyrochimp and Venomunk, we get jump scared by a few Diglets. The wild Pokemon were no match for the ancient power of running away. Oh, he's evolving! Now that Fire Monkey turned into slightly bigger Fire Monkey, I was ready to challenge the gym leader, Katie. Since Chimchar evolved earlier than Fuecoco, I could still use Monferno even within the level cap, so I was ready to completely dominate. Katie sends out Nimble, and of course I send out Monferno. Monferno one-shots Nimble, oh my god, chill out, dude. Katie sends out Tarantula, so I use Ember again, and almost one-shot that too. Tarantula fires back with Assurance, dealing an immense amount of damage, and by immense, I mean it was just a little slap in the face. Before it can even get to my turn, Tarantula gets hurt by the burn damage from Ember and faints. Katie sends out Teddiursa, which is the only Pokemon so far that isn't weak to fire, but oh no, Teddiursa's going Super Saiyan. And that was a bad move because it makes itself weak to fire with that change. I was kind of worried at first, but then I saw how much damage Ember was doing, so I was pretty confident. Teddiursa does the equivalent of hitting me with a wet noodle, but Fury Swipe gets 3 hits in a row, so that noodle started to feel a little bit more like a metal pipe. Not to worry, at this point Ember is still busted, and I take the fight home against the little bear. With our first gym badge acquired, it was time to get a Mankey to add to our roster. So I go looking around and eventually come across a few out in the wild. We snag our new monkey with a Great Ball, and we name him Smashanna because combining Smash and Banana sounded way funnier in my head. At this point, all I really needed to do was prepare for the grass gym. On our way to the next gym, we make a quick stop to battle the big crab in these cliffs, and with the help of our new fighting type monkey, the crab goes down without much issue. After we got past the Stony Cliff Titan and got that sweet Herba Mystica, it's time to head off to the Artisan Gym to fight the grass gym leader, Brassius. Hey wait, where is Brassius? Oh, do you want me to come up there, or are we gonna be... Oh, okay, you're just jumping down. All right, you know what? Never mind. I ended up completely owning Brassius with Ember, so this was a pretty boring battle, honestly. In fact, the battle was so boring that Monferno ended up falling asleep mid-fight. Sleepy monkey. With Brassius defeated, we got our second gym badge. Nice. Now our next objective was to go defeat the second Titan Pokemon, Bombardier. It was on the other side of the map, so after a little bit of quick traveling, we landed ourselves in Cortando. After I fought a few wild Pokemon and healed up a bit, it was time to head to the Titan's lair. Now, the Bombardier fight is gonna be tricky this time around because he's literally the perfect counter to every Pokemon I have right now, being that both Monferno and Mankey are weak to flying. But come on, I was pretty strong at this point. There was no way I was gonna lose, right? This ended up being our first reset of the game. You might be wondering why reset here, you still have Pokemon that can fight. Well, someone hasn't been paying attention, have they? Since monkeys are critically endangered across the world, I took it upon myself to protect them at all costs. So for this playthrough, the biggest rule is that if even one of my monkeys faints in battle, we have to reset and try again. That's right, we're going deathless. Anyway, my new strategy was to get another party member that could handle that overgrown Pelican, and I thought the best chance that we had was to breed a Slakoth from a Vigoroth. And to take on the Team Starbase after this fight, we're gonna need another Pokemon anyway, so this was just like killing two birds with one stone. Or maybe it's one bird with 3 stones? You know what, never mind. So I start checking around areas 3 and 5, looking for a Slakoth to spawn while making sure Miraidon gets a concussion by hitting as many trees as possible. After about 30 minutes, we find and catch a Vigoroth. I name her Sid because she technically looks more like a sloth than a monkey, and if you got a problem with that, I don't care because this is my playthrough, and if I say it's a monkey, it's a monkey. After a couple more minutes, another Vigoroth spawns and I catch that too. At this point, these two mons are over-leveled, so we need to breed for the perfect young Slakoth to add to our team. So buckle up because it's sandwich time! I started up a picnic to give Miraidon some rest, and the Vigoroth's a chance to get it on, and now it's time to play the waiting game. It ends up taking these two forever to get me some eggs because Miraidon kept trying to get in on the action. Bad boy. But finally we get our eggs and make our Pokemon omelet. And by omelet, I mean hatching the thing that comes out of the egg. Okay, this one definitely looks a lot more like a sloth. But again, if you have a problem with that, I do not care. We name our newborn Slakoth Sid in honor of its mother. At this point, I needed to do some more grinding to level up the monkeys, so I thought it would be nice to try out a Terra Raid because the XP candies they give are insane, and pretty much all of my Pokemon could use a boost. I keep farming candies until Sid gets to level 20 and evolves. Then I teach him Metal Claw to replace Scratch, and with that, it was time to face our arch nemesis again. Bombardier was going down this time, for I was determined. Go, Sid! Sid is faster than this big dumb bird, and Headbutt actually connects. Bombardier responds with a Pluck, but Sid tanks it like a champ. Sid tries to use Headbutt again, but this time Bombardier is faster, and soon we're on our last bit of HP. But the second Headbutt connects and brings the Bombardier down to half HP. We can do this! We just have to use Slakoth. Alright, and that was another. Before our next attempt, I decided to get the Silk Scarf to buff Sid's headbutt damage, and then head back to the mountain to try again. Hopefully our next attempt will be better. Sid was literally the only Pokemon that we had that wasn't weak to Bombardier, so it was pretty much all on him. I used headbutt like before, but the giant Stork is faster. We both tear each other apart on this first turn. I respond with a Slakoth to heal up, restoring half our HP, and we're back in business. From this point on, our strategy was to alternate Headbutt with Slakoth so that we'd always survive to the next turn. But like an idiot though, I accidentally go for Headbutt 2 times in a row, but we get super lucky and survive with 3 HP. It's all down to this final turn. We click Headbutt and pray for the best. And we end up winning the speed tie and connect our Headbutt, bringing down the big bird. Or so I thought. After being defeated, Bombardier smashes through a cave and starts eating a bunch of Herba Mystica, which in my book counts as cheating. But nonetheless, Arven and I prepare ourselves for the second phase. I decide at this point Sid is too low on HP to battle, so I swap him for Mankey, but just like before, he gets one shot and it's reset o'clock again. Looks like the third time's the charm though, and this time I get past the first phase of Bombardier with more than 3 HP. Bombardier immediately starts the second phase by targeting Sid with Wing Attack, but luckily we have enough HP to tank it. This time I decide to go for a Yawn to put the bird to sleep, and then it's Arven's turn. His Knackley uses Rock Throw, but somehow this gigantic bird avoids the attack by staying completely still. Nice. On the next turn, we heal up with Slakoth before Bombardier falls asleep. It was finally our chance. Arven decides to have his Knackley go for the absolutely decimating move of spamming Rock Polish to increase his speed. Ha! Good luck catching him now. Once Arven's Knackley is so fast that it's almost inappropriate, it comes in clutch with a SmackDown WWE style. Bombardier throws a couple rocks at Knackley, but the Mad Lad learns, and he also evades the attack by standing perfectly still. Finally, Arven deals the finishing blow, and the Open Sky Titan was no more. With the bird brain gone, it was time to foil the evil plans of Team Star. We head over to the first base where we take out the guards in a breeze and head into the main area to fight Hakamo. Sid uses Yawn against Hakamo's Pawniard, and Pawniard uses Metal Claw to slightly scratch us. But it's okay because on the next turn, Pawniard is snoozing, so I take advantage of this by swapping Sid with Fire Monkey. Pyrochimp uses Flame Wheel against Pawniard, and needless to say, we completely obliterate him because of the type difference. Hakamo reveals his second Pokemon was the truck he was standing on the entire time, and I can't help but feel slightly intimidated. I use Flame Wheel like normal, but either Revavroom has an insane amount of HP, or it's just immune to fire attacks because I barely do any damage against him. I swap out Pyrochimp for Smashanna, but Hakamo's Wicked Torque completely destroys Smashanna's HP. At this point, it was not looking too good for me, I'm not gonna lie. And it wasn't good for me. We end up getting rolled from here and need to reset. Luckily, in our next attempt, we get right to the Revavroom fight without losing any Pokemon, which was pretty sick, but I was having a really hard time dealing any damage to Hakamo. We try to use Yawn against Revavroom, but then we realized that we're talking to a literal lawnmower, so that wasn't really an option. I actually got super close to winning the fight with Smashanna, but we just got run over by this Ford F-150, so we had to reset again. Finally though, on the third try, our strategy works out and we clutch out the fight against Hakamo. With Team Star completely in shambles, we take a quick 16-hour flight across the world to Kitakami so that we can get an Aipom to breed for the Iono fight. I catch it out in Area 2 and spend a ton of time out here gathering whatever materials I could so that I could craft some sweet TMs when we got back. Then we sat down and had another picnic where we got ourselves another Pokemon egg with Mankey and Aipom. After we hatch our newest simian friend, we name him Bananabo, which of course is a combination of banana and bonobo. Honestly, bonobo sounds like a Pokemon already, so I thought this would be pretty fitting. So with our newest endangered species acquired, we head on down to Levincia to challenge Iono, but it looks like our stalker friend already beat us here. I get challenged by Miss Pneumonia, and being that I wanted to keep my flawless record against her going, I accept her challenge. And it was a complete sweep, as usual. I go to challenge Iono, but I guess someone pushed the go live button because she was going full streamer mode. Anyway, after playing Where's Waldo a couple of times, I completed the glorified Mr. Beast challenge, and it was time to battle our third gym leader. I do my best, but Iono's Belly Bolt is addicted to destroying us, and we just can't stop her Luxio from standing there menacingly, so we had to reset a couple of times here. I was getting really paranoid at this point, so I go full try-hard mode and whip out a damage calculator to make sure that I was safe with whatever move I picked. Thankfully though, after calculating every possible contingency like I'm in Death Note, we get a quick W against Iono. Now it was time to start heading to Mela, the next Team Star member. I try to battle a few random wild Pokemon to prepare for the fight, and I actually ended up coming across a shiny Pawmo. I ended up using 3 Pokeballs to catch it, but I knew I was wasting them because Pawmo obviously isn't a monkey. Still though, it was pretty cool to find it, and that boosted my spirits for the next fight. We head to the Team Star hideout, take care of the guards, defeat 30 Pokemon like usual before Mela spawns. Oh my god, she's got a truck too! Mela uses Torkoal and attacks Sid with the power of Steam, but Sid responds by pelting him with rocks until the Steam Turtle was out of commission. So now it was time to fight the Lawnmower Death Machine 2000. But fortunately, my encounters with Hakamo prepared me, so after swapping around between Pyrochimp and Sid, we finished the battle with Bananabo. With Mela out of the picture, it was time to head to the lair of the Pokemon version of the Alaskan Bullworm. While we were on our way there, we battled a few wild Carcoals, and oh look, Smashanna's evolving! Nice! Oh, Venomook is also evolving! Double nice. Thankfully, the power boost we were able to get from evolving our team was enough to completely steamroll this Earthworm Jim wannabe. He tries to run away from me, but little does he know, I have a literal motorcycle. Cornered, the worm tries to power up, but it just couldn't handle the overwhelming power of Monkey, and before long, the third Titan was no more. Next, we headed off to Port whatever this place is called to challenge Kofu, only to have him burst by us in the opposite direction on our way into the gym. Apparently, he forgot his wallet, so his assistant gives it to a random 10-year-old who just happens to be passing by. An extremely wise decision. I'm not a monster though, so my new quest was to return it. Apparently his apprentice Hugo takes this personally, so I end up battling the unpaid intern because he insisted on defending his master's glory. This is the last time I try to do a good deed. After I get through Hugo, I meet Kofu and return his wallet, then I get the chance to challenge the water master himself back at his gym. I knew he was going to be tough no matter what because of our type matchups. At this point, all of my Pokemon were weak to water, psychic, and fighting types, which gives Kofu a huge advantage. Kofu sends out Veluza and I send out my boy Sid. Sid uses Throat Chop and Veluza responds with the Pluck. So far so good. Then we use Throat Chop a few more times until Veluza faints. With one Pokemon down, Kofu sends out his second water type Wugtrio and almost knocks out Sid, so I swap him out to Smash Anna. But Wugtrio completely owns our second monkey. At this point I was starting to get a little bit nervous. Finally we do manage to get through Wugtrio with Pyrochimp on just a sliver of HP, but now it was time for Kofu's ace. Just to be safe I swap out Venomoth, and this time there weren't any weird type matchups, so I thought this would be a relatively clean fight. But of course he puts on his big water Terra hat, so I'm just kinda screwed. Or maybe not. Oh wait, maybe not. Maybe yeah. Or maybe not. Or maybe yes. Okay. After getting rolled here, my next few fights with Kofu didn't go so hot. The truth was that even though I was at a disadvantage, my roster did have decent type coverage. It just wasn't quite enough to beat Kofu. After about 40 minutes of fighting this guy, I decided it would be best to look for some TMs that would make this fight a little bit more bearable. I did a little bit of research looking for the TMs that I thought would help out, and soon I formed a game plan. First, I went to the lovely East Province Area 1 so that I could get Seed Bomb. I ended up teaching Seed Bomb to our boy Smash Anna, getting rid of Low Kick. Next, we use the Dig TM that we got earlier and teach it to Banana Bow, throwing our second Low Kick in the garbage. What is it with monkeys and learning Low Kick? What I really wanted more than anything though was some electric coverage, but the only monkey who could learn an electric move was Primeape, that being Thunder Punch, and it was way too early in the game for me to get that TM, so I was out of luck in the electric department. But on my journey for TMs, I found my second shiny. It's little Wooper. But again, Wooper is also clearly not a monkey, so we can't use it, but it was pretty insane to see two shinies this early in one playthrough. Anyway, I go ahead and craft Grass Knot and teach it to Banana Bow in place of Swift, and with all that, it was time for round 2 against Kofu. And we already are off to a bad start. As soon as we get to the gym, a sandstorm starts. If you didn't know, Crabominal's Crabhammer is weakened in the extreme sunlight of the desert, so I thought by fighting during the day, we'd have an easier time getting past Kofu. However, because overworld weather conditions can't be overruled by the player, setting up sun to weaken the Crabhammer was impossible. We basically just had to pray we didn't get a sandstorm during our battle, and if we did, it was reset time. I was optimistic though. I thought I'd just wait outside for a bit for the sandstorm to stop, and then challenge Kofu, but I was completely scammed as soon as we entered the arena. Just for funsies, we decide to give the battle a shot, but our first attack misses and we end up getting KO'd. I try again, but then we start to see a few dust particles and just reset our way out of there. Third try's the charm. Okay, nice. No sandstorm. Veluza versus Smash Anna. Immediately, the TMs are coming in clutch as Seed Bomb rips apart Veluza. I take heavy damage myself, but after another turn, Veluza faints. Wugtrio tries to be slick and knock out Smash Anna, but the Seed Bomb is just too good, and we end up one-shotting him instead. But now it was time for the real test. The newly terastallized Crabominable uses Crabhammer, and I panic and swap out Sid for Pyrochimp. And that turned out to be my last mistake in this battle. This was definitely our toughest battle yet. We fought and fought, but after hours of attempts, we weren't getting any closer to beating him. I was getting really frustrated here. I seriously wondered if this challenge would even be possible, but it had to be, right? Nonetheless, like the great Paul Blart before me, I never gave up hope. In our final attempt with my arch nemesis staring me down, Sid lands a yawn. Literally the only thing that I could think of was to force Snowman Crab over here to go night-night, then hit it with a barrage of attacks. He gets drowsy and I tank a rock smash like it's nothing. We take a deep breath and swap out Sid with Banana Bow, preparing ourselves for the worst. The scary Crabman hits us with a slam, but we tank it like a boss. And at the perfect time, he falls asleep. And now, it's go time. We hit him with a super strong Grass Knot, taking out a big chunk of HP. We need him to stay asleep, which he does, and we use Grass Knot again, and now he's just one hit away. Or maybe not. Crabominable is left with just a sliver of HP from our third Grass Knot. And now all these hours of grinding came down to this moment. We just needed him to stay asleep for one more turn. If he woke up, it was over, and we were completely screwed. Yes! Yes! We end the most stressful battle of my life on a critical hit. And now with another badge under my belt, there was no time to rest as we headed over to the next Team Star member, Atticus. On our way to battle the leader of the Poison Crew, I thought it was a good time to catch our final primate friend, Passimian. And we do just that and nickname our new friend Golangutan. Passimian's design is based on football, so I thought with the sports influence I'd combine Gol with orangutan. Again, it sounded better in my head. We grinded up to the level cap. Now with our newest monkey friend at level 33, we had a pretty stacked roster, so I was confident going into the next fight that it was gonna be pretty easy. I drive down to the lovely Poison hideout where I meet a small child hanging out with one of the guards. The guard seems spooked at me because I owned Hakamo and Mela, but I get challenged by the bold toddler instead. I take this chance to try out our football monkey, who smacks down this kid with ease. A mysterious spam caller congratulates me for winning against a literal 8-year-old as I enter the hideout. We do the dang thing, defeating 30 Pokemon for Atticus to show up, and pretty soon he comes into full view. Oh my god, another truck. You gotta be kidding me. Again with the truck thing. Atticus seems to think that we're at medieval times by the way he's speaking, but I don't have time to LARP, so I just start the battle. The bad thing about this fight is that all of his Pokemon have higher base stats than mine, but it doesn't matter because we have a full team and Atticus doesn't. But it still was a really hard battle because we didn't have coverage against a lot of his roster. After taking a couple of losses, I went back to teach Venomoth foul play to hopefully use Revavroom's high attack against it. Even with that power boost though, we still managed to get horrible luck in this battle. But thanks to Venomoth using Leer to drop its defense and Sid spamming Bulldoze, we were able to land the finishing blow with our new football monkey. We head out of town, and while on our journey to the next battle, we find a third shiny. What is this luck? Not being able to use any of these non-monkey shinies is true torture. Anyway, I box the shiny Snorunt, and Pyrochimp evolves into the hottest monkey around, Infernape. I also managed to evolve Smashanna into Annihilape, so I head over to Medali and challenge Larry the depressed businessman. Wait, Larry's only 25? He looks like he's 55 years old. Oh my god, bro needs a vacation. Anyway, we absolutely steamrolled the workaholic with Infernape, and pretty soon it was time to get jump scared by Nemona right after the battle. As usual, I completely forgot that the Nemona fight was right after Larry, so I was surprised to say the least. The new evolutions were putting in a lot of legwork, but we got some pretty terrible RNG with a random rainstorm popping up in the middle of our battle. Again, we can't do anything about it, so pardon my language, but this was starting to get really flippin' annoying. Why can I catch 3 shinies but not have an attempt without random bad weather? Is that so much to ask? After a handful of tries, we eventually got past her terrestrialized Meowscarada, and just like that, Sid evolves into the big lazy gorilla Slaking. With another win against our rival under our belts, we make our way to the snowy tundra of Montenevera to take on the next gym. Now unfortunately, I did an oopsie, and while I was farming Mimikyu scraps, I accidentally overleveled Smashanna by 1 level, so it looks like we'll be doing the next battle with 1 less monkey. But I keep grinding because there's a certain TM that I want for this next battle, and that TM is Shadowclaw. Eventually we gather enough materials, then after crafting the TM, I teach it to Bananabow. Now it's time to fight the next gym leader, so I head up on stage to take on the gym test. Apparently my first opponent is another small child, and where are the parents in this world? Thankfully, Sid is able to use its new move Shadowclaw to destroy Casper the unfriendly ghost, and quickly take out the Greavard as well. With the absolutely massive crowd of 5 people cheering us on, we fight the next gym trainer. But for these battles, Shadowclaw is just so busted against their ghost types, we take them out in no time at all. After the MC trainer fight though, I was starting to get worried because Venomonk was getting dangerously close to overleveling. But we defeated the final trainer and snuck in just under the level cap. Rhyme starts out the battle with Banette and Mimikyu, and I immediately have both Bananabo and Sid target Mimikyu with a double Shadow Claw attack. The first attack only breaks Mimikyu's disguise, but the second leaves him in absolute shambles. The opposing Banette tries to sucker punch me, but it fails like a nerd, so I take Mimikyu out with another Shadow Claw. Rhyme replaces the Pikachu wannabe with a big old dog Houndstone, but I was still confident that I could win. Our main issue with Rhyme is that she has really good coverage against our entire lineup, but regardless, we were still able to take out her Houndstone. With Houndstone out of the picture, Rhyme sends out Toxtricity, and then uses Terra to put a big balloon on its head, and thanks to its new ghost type, we're still able to almost one-shot it with Shadow Claw. Dude, chill out! We try our best to take out Toxtricity, but Discharge is just too strong, so we have to reset for round 2. This time we try switching around a lot to keep our monkeys from dying to Discharge, but it was still completely owning us. We end up beating Toxtricity on our third try thanks to a clutch attack from Pyrochimp, and after I got through Rhyme's Mimikyu, the gym badge was mine. From here we continued our journey by challenging the next Titan, Iron Treads. Now, I was expecting the Quaking Earth Titan to be way more difficult, but Smashanna did his One Punch Man impression, completely demolishing him. Even after he powered up, he was no match for Monkey, and the fight was over extremely quickly. So after we got the Sour Herba Mystica, Miraidon could now glide, which was gonna be super helpful for traveling around, so we quickly make our way over to the next gym where we get ambushed by Nemona yet again. This wasn't the hardest battle of our life, but Miss Pneumonia was still pretty strong, so we had to be a little bit careful. Not to worry though, because Pyrochimp is a complete alpha and almost single-handedly wins us the battle. Now comes one of the trickiest parts of this challenge, which was the Psychic Gym in Alfornada. You see, Tulip is a complete loser and decided to specialize in the Psychic type, which completely counters 4 of our strongest monkeys. So naturally, I had to prepare for this battle way more than any other one up to this point in my life. I started out by trying out the gym test just to get it out of the way, and after a few attempts, I made it through. Next, I spent forever gathering money and crafting TMs that would help in the fight. At one point, I even considered hyper training to boost our stats even more, but like a complete noob, I forgot that you can only hyper train after level 50, so that was out of the question. So we just grind stats the old-fashioned way until we feel confident enough to battle Tulip. Our main strategy was to outspeed her, so we got a couple of speed EVs, and just for good measure, I got a few low-level special defense EVs. And after all that training, it was finally battle time. We start out with Sid because he's one of the 2 Pokemon that we have that isn't weak to Psychic types. All is going well with the few X-Scissors I get through Farigiraf just fine. Then Tulip sends out Gardevoir, and I swap out Sid with Venomonk, but that turned out to be a horrible decision because he immediately gets KO'd by her Psychic. Second time around, I keep Sid in the fight against Gardevoir, but he gets KO'd this time. Bruh. But soon after, I get a lucky attempt going, and I'm able to knock out Gardevoir with Smashanna's Rage Fist. But as Pathra's Psychic sends Bananabo to the hospital on the next turn. Eventually, I figure out the best strategy. I have to start out with Venomonk and use U-turn before Mr. Astronaut Giraffe can respond. I retract Venomonk and replace him with Bananabo, who isn't weak to Psychic. I do take a little damage in the process, but that's totally fine because we have the advantage. Next, we use Dig to avoid another chunk of damage and take out Farigiraf. Now it's time for Gardevoir, but we're prepared this time because Smashanna one-shots with a super effective Rage Fist. After quickly dispatching his Pathra, Tulip sends out and terastallizes her Florges, but Shadow Claw makes quick work of her, and just like that, the 7th gym leader has been defeated. Our next stop is back in the mountains, where we challenge the Ice Gym leader, Grusha. We fly through the snow and punch a few Crabominables in the face because I am extremely petty, that's what you get. And after we craft a few TMs for Smashanna, Sid, and Golangatang, we waste no time by speedrunning to the next gym. But oh wait, it's skiing time! After a slightly underwhelming go down the mountain, we face off against Grusha. But before the battle, Mr. Edgelord tries to tell us not to take defeat personally. We'll see about that. To start off the fight, it's an easy Pyrochimp sweep against his first 3 Pokemon, but his Alteria's Hurricane was a huge issue. I kept swapping around the team, taking Hurricanes, trying to deal as much damage as possible until I landed on Annihilate. He hits me with Hurricane, but instead of swapping out, I take a gigantic gamble. Even with Smashanna confused from Hurricane, we still click close combat, and by being a hair of speed faster, we fight our way through the confusion to land the hit and win. After our 8th and final Gym Leader W, we meet with Geeta and Nemona, who congratulate us on our victory and invite us to challenge the Elite Four and Champion. But before we do that, with the last of the Gym Leaders out of the way, we focus our sights on the Fairy Team Starbase to defeat Ortega. But our recording actually ended up corrupting here, and unfortunately my first successful attempt at beating Ortega was lost to the abyss. So just to be fair, I challenged him again to show you guys I actually won. There ain't no cheating in this house. After massacring 30 Pokemon within the base, we met our good old friend Ortega on his signature pink Ford F-150. Venomoth goes out first and completely slaughters Azumarill with Poison Jabs and Acid Spray, and my man Ortega doesn't get a break because Poison Jab obliterates Wigglytuff right after he brings it in. Let me just say, it was insane how well I was doing because I have 3 Pokemon that are extremely weak to Fairy types. I thought it would be a lot harder with the type disadvantage, but I guess not. After Sid uses his newly acquired Poison Jab on the truck, we took home the W against Ortega. After our epic battle, I decided to do some more raids to get stronger for the last Team Starbase. Turns out the next level cap is 7 levels above the last one, so I do some more grinding for that. I also want some more treasures that we can trade in for some cash money to get prepared for the last few battles of the challenge. Before we head over to the final Team Starbase, I decided to get the last Titan out of the way, so I went down to Casa Royal Lake to fight Dondozo. Dondozo, more like Don Bozo! And with that, we get the last Herba Mystica. We also thought it would be nice to do some hyper training now that all my monkeys are level 50, so after spending a few bottle caps, my team was even stronger. With all the grinding out of the way, it was time for us to battle the final member of Team Star, Aerie. I kinda went overboard in the prep work and was slightly overleveled for this fight, but to be honest, it was still gonna be tricky without any acrobatics TMs. Originally, I wanted to get some before the fight, but the problem was that it was nighttime. This was kind of a huge deal because you need Bombardier feathers to craft them, and Bombardier only spawn during the day. Since I had no feathers, I'd have to wait for way too long, and I was already getting bored just thinking about it, so I figured I could handle the last boss without them. Alright, Golangatan versus Toxicroak. I get through the first Pokemon with a little damage, but it's nothing too crazy. Aerie sends out her second Pokemon, and what the? The Battle of the Monkeys has begun. A worthy opponent. You call that a monkey, huh? It seems like Aerie might be literally obsessed with me because right after this, she pulls out a freaking Smashanna. I wasn't about to take this lying down, so I assert my dominance and one-hit KO her Smashanna wannabe. Finally, she seems to cut back to her senses and actually uses a non-monkey Pokemon. But my power is too great and Fire Monkey instantly destroys Lucario. So I swap to Sid for the final battle against the possessed Parade Float. Aerie gets extremely greedy and goes for an additional shift gear, allowing us to get through our second turn of Truant, which is pretty lucky. But my luck was about to get so much better. No freaking way. So we're able to finish off Aerie with Smashanna after a quick swap. And with the final Team Star member crying to her mommy, we start prepping ourselves for the end game. Oh wait, sorry, I'm getting a phone call. Hey Cassiopeia. What do you mean you're the leader of Team Star? Okay. Cool, I guess. After learning about the plot twist that absolutely no one saw coming, I completely ignored the threat of defeating a Pokemon Mafia boss and go for the champion rank. So I head up to the Elite Four building, and after I ace the interview, my first opponent of the Elite Four is Rika. And I'll be honest, I reset here a lot. Reason being, I was looking for an extremely specific starting sequence. After quite a long time, I end up on a run that I like. I get past Whiscash with an easy Seed Bomb, and I mow through Camerupt with a combo of Screech into close combat. Rika sends out Donphan as I swap to Sid because he's an absolute unit. Luckily, Donphan's Earthquake is no match for the power of a giant laser beam. But oh no, Sid has to recharge and has to take a few more Earthquakes. But Slacking just so happens to be a gamer god and comes in clutch with Trailblaze, beating Donphan on the last sliver of its health. Rika's next Pokemon is Dugtrio, so I respond by sending out Banana Bow. Dugtrio seems to think it's funny to keep spamming Earthquake and somehow summons a Sandstorm indoors, but Banana Bow completely annihilates those overgrown moles with an Ice Punch. Finally, it was time for Rika's ace, Clodsire. I thought about keeping Bananabo in the game, but I didn't want to risk him fainting, so I swapped him out with Football Monkey. Clodsire protects through our attack, nonetheless my monkey uses Beat Up again, and we get a 6-hit combo. Clodsire protects through our first attack, but we use Beat Up again on the next turn. We swap to Smashanna and get hit with a critical Earthquake, which pretty much seals our fate. I did quite a few attempts on this fight. The issue was that Earthquake from all of Rika's Pokemon kept ending my runs because we had some pretty serious weaknesses to ground type moves. Eventually, I get a really good run going where our team had taken very little damage, and we get past the terastallized Clodsire with a nicely timed close combat from Smashanna. With our first victory under our belt, I wait for our second opponent, but for some reason, a random kid walks in? Oh, the kid is our opponent. Oh, okay. The type difference was a little tricky in the Poppy fight, but eventually we got the hang of it. I send out Pyrochimp as she sends out Copperajah, and Flare Blitz completely owns the Copper Elephant, although our precious Fire Monkey takes a pretty serious amount of recoil damage. From here, Poppy sends out Corviknight, which is pretty scary because Pyrochimp is weak to it, but plot twist, Corviknight is also weak to Pyrochimp. So we fire off another Flare Blitz, and who could have guessed that we get one hit by a flying type? It connects but doesn't kill, and we end up getting taken out by the Corviknight. In my second try against Poppy, I swap out Pyrochimp with Sid. This time Corviknight uses Iron Defense to hide like a nerd, but no defense is impenetrable to the power of sleep, so Sid fires off a Yawn. Corviknight uses a super effective Body Press, dealing a good amount of damage, so I decide to swap back to our boy Pyrochimp. We take another Body Press, and this is when I start to get really nervous, but luckily after that, the bird falls asleep on this turn. Unfortunately, Corviknight's boosted defense proved to be too much for us to handle in this attempt, so we reset again. The next attempt was going well. I kept the strategy of using Sid as a damage sponge against Corviknight and just kept using Yawn. Next up was Bronzong, but it wasn't much of a fight because he immediately died to my flamethrower. Poor guy. As you would guess, Magnezone also ended up being really weak to fire, so after spamming Flamethrower harder than Elon Musk, we get to our ace Tinkaton. Initially, I was intimidated by Tinkaton's gigantic hammer, but it turned out to be no match for Flare Blitz. And with that, it was time to face the third member of the Elite Four. Larry? We heal our roster of brave monkeys and prepare for the fight with Mr. Workaholic. But this time was different. As a member of the Elite Four, Larry specializes in flying type Pokemon, which was a far cry from the normal types he was using before. The battle begins and it's Pyrochimp versus Tropius. I get the first hit with Flamethrower, and Tropius decides to set the sun up and hits me with some air flashes, but I finish him off with another boosted Flamethrower. Next, Larry sends in Staraptor, and at this point we're a little bit low, so we swap to Sid. Staraptor hits us with a Brave Bird, but Sid responds with a Kamehameha, which knocks it out in one hit. Sid needed to recharge, so it had to tank a couple hits, but thankfully, it survives. Unfortunately, Alteria's Dragon Pulse is way more effective on our boy. At this point, we're on 26 HP, but instead of swapping, we decide to stay in and risk it with an Ice Punch. And our 4 times effective gamble paid off because Altaria was instantly knocked out of commission. Larry sends out his Oricorio as I swap to Bananabo, but after spamming Ice Punch a couple times, we get through him no problem. Finally, Larry sends out his Ace, which is a literal Flamingo. I wanted to use Venomunk against him, but close combat shredded our hit points as we swapped in. I wasn't about to take another risk, so I swapped to Golangutan, but Balloon Head over here gets a super effective hit on Football Monkey, making us reset again. My next few attempts weren't any better. We were having so much trouble getting past this Flamingo. It kept spamming super powerful Brave Birds, KOing our Pokemon. And to be perfectly honest, this late in the game, I was getting kind of annoyed. After an hour of dying to the same attack, I'm able to get Sid out on time, and he tanks a Brave Bird like an absolute Chad. After a combination of resting up using Sleep Talk and Ice Punch, Sid is able to beat the Flamingo, and we prepare ourselves for the head honcho of the Elite Four, Hassel. This was going to be different from any of my other battles. 5 of our Pokemon were technically underleveled by 1 level, which didn't make a huge difference, but it's definitely noticeable. I didn't have any more XP candies on me, so we had to make it work with what we have. Hassel uses Noivern as I send out Bananabo. We get through the first Pokemon fine, but after our monkey gets poisoned against Dragalge, we decide to just cut our losses and reset. The hassle battle turns out to be a giant hassle because of all the RNG, so pretty much all we could do at this point was pray to Arceus that he didn't use the right moves to beat us. On our next attempt, we get through Noivern and take out Dragalge without getting poisoned, and at this point, it's a fair fight. Until he terastallizes Baxcalibur and takes out Pyrochimp in one hit. The second time we make it to Baxcalibur, I swap to Sid so that we don't immediately get taken out by the giant dragon. Lucky for me, Sid has Rest, which completely heals us to full HP, so he was basically an endlessly repairing wall. But as confident as I was, RNGesus was not on our side because Baxcalibur's Glaive Rush one-shots Golangatan as we try to bring it in to get more damage, so we have to start back at 0. Normally we could go out and level up our Pokemon by 1 level to make it more of a fair fight, but since we're in the Elite Four, we're pretty much just stuck here till we can beat it. So with no other options on the table, I grit my teeth and just keep trying. I was tired, frustrated, and at my wit's end. But then I remembered something. Something that would give me endless hope. Something that's actually too personal to talk about here, so I'm not going to tell you. And honestly, mind your own business. And just like that, I was rejuvenated to my full power. Hassle was going down. We make it all the way back to his ace Baxcalibur and land a final close combat with Pyrochimp to take out the dragon. Excited, we began to celebrate, but our celebration was cut short by our true final opponent, Geeta. Geeta was going to be the strongest trainer we've seen in the entire game so far, but my defeated foes were cheering for my victory, so I couldn't let them down. I was one step away from becoming champion, and this was my last test. With that in mind, I put on my big boy pants and headed into battle. Geeta leads with Espathra, so I send out Venomoth. I do some good damage with the super effective X-Scissor, but Lumina Crash almost knocks us out. Oh my god. I try to use U-turn to deal some damage and escape, but Espathra was way too fast with a quick attack, so on our first attempt, we took a big L. On our next try, we start out with Sid to try to soak up some of the damage from Espathra. Lumina Crash isn't nearly as dangerous against Sid, although it does drop his special defense, but I'm not too worried. We use X-Scissor to deal a ton of damage, then swap out to Banana Bow. Banana Bow is also built like an absolute unit and doesn't flinch against the giant laser from Espathra. Finally, on the next turn, we're able to take the giant ostrich down with the Shadow Claw. Next, Geeta sends out Avalugg, so I swap to Smash Anna. Avalugg tries to use Body Press, but little does he know this is actually a ghost monkey returned from the dead, so it straight up doesn't affect him at all. Smash Anna uses Close Combat, and Avalugg responds by hitting him with an Earthquake. Even though our defense was dropped from our Close Combat, Smash Anna still tanks the hit like a beast, and we get through Avalugg on the next turn with another Close Combat. So far, so good. Our third opponent is Go-Goat, so I decided it was time for Sid to join the fray once again. Go-Goat uses Play Rough, which literally tickles our big gorilla, and I respond with an X-Scissor to claw Go-Goat in the face. Next, Geeta decides to drain some energy from us with Horn Leech, but it's alright because I'm swapping to Venomoth, who resists the attack. After tanking another Horn Leech on the following turn, we respond with a Gunk Shot, which utterly decimates this goat. Next up is King Gambit, who headbutts Pyrochimp and almost takes him out on the first turn. We decide to make a swap to Sid, who just kinda dies, and it's reset time. On our next attempt, we get through Geeta's first 3 Pokemon no problem, with most of our team being relatively healthy. We decide to go for Smash Anna to try to end the fight against King Gambit quickly, and Mr. Samurai Beetle headbutts us again, but this time our boy survives by the skin of his teeth. Now was my chance to actually land an attack, and a 4x effective close combat is more than enough to seal its fate. Next up was Veluza, so I swap out Smash Anna with Sid, who uses an X-Scissor to take it out in one hit. At this point, Geeta was down to her last Pokemon, Glimmora, who she brings in and terastallizes. Pyrochimp tanks a Sludge Wave, and we fire back with the close combat, leaving Glimmora with just a sliver of health. I was about to win. All we needed was one more attack. But thankfully on our next attempt, everything goes smoothly, and we actually end up taking out the Glimmora and secure the rank of Pokemon Champion. After being congratulated by the Elite Four, I was greeted by Pneumonia and given the option to battle her. I accept, but first we gotta check out what's going on at the lighthouse with Arven. Oh my god, they pulled a Gravity Falls. After After it's revealed that Professor Turo is trapped deep underground somewhere, Arven challenges me to a battle to see if we're ready to go. I guess he didn't get the memo that I'm literally one of the strongest trainers in the world now, but whatever, I agree. Arven the Chipmunk leads with Greedent, and I send out Golangatan. I use close combat like usual and KO Greedent before he even gets the chance to attack. Next up is Scovillain, who immediately dies to a gunk shot. It's not looking too good for Arven. Up third is Toadscruel, who to my surprise doesn't die after one hit. Finally, a worthy opponent. It hits us with a Spore, sending Golangatan on a one-way ticket to Sleepy Town, so I swap him out with Poison Monkey. We brace for impact as we take a Power Whip, but to absolutely no one's surprise, it doesn't do much damage. Back to my turn though, and I finish it off with a U-turn. Next, Arven sends out a creature straight out of Minecraft, and we use Smashanna for this one-shotting yet another one of his Pokemon. I'm not gonna lie, I low-key kinda feel bad with how one-sided this fight has been. Next up, Sid one-shots Cloyster because of course he does, then Arven calls out his ace, Mabostiff. Mabostiff terastallizes and hits us with a crunch, but it doesn't do too much damage. We swap to Pyrochimp, who takes a little bit of damage as Mabostiff goes to sleep from our yawn. Now that the dog is asleep, it's a sitting duck, and we're able to dispatch it easily with the close combat. After that extremely difficult battle, we head back to school where we have to battle Director Clavel. We thoroughly prepare ourselves for this battle, but nothing could have prepared us for his first Pokemon. A monkey? No! Regardless of our mission to protect and serve monkeys everywhere, we rush into this Oranguru with a close combat. It responds with a yawn, but at this point, it's too late for him. Another close combat decimates his HP. Next up is Abomasnow, who just so happens to be 4 times weak to fire, so you know who I'm sending out. After a quick flamethrower, Abomasnow is basically down for the count, but he does manage to get a little bit of damage from a wood hammer on his way out. Next, the director sends out Houndoom, who quickly goes down to another close combat. Next, the director sends out a floating teapot, and we accidentally mash A too many times and use another close combat against this ghost type, so it's able to buff its attack and speed, then kill us with a Shadow Ball. On our next attempt, we managed to make it back to Poltergeist and take it out with a critical Shadow Claw from Banana Bow. From here, we take out his Amogus and find ourselves facing down the director's final Pokemon, Quaquaval. And after an intense back and forth battle, we clutch out the victory with a Seed Bomb. From here, we head out to the schoolyard to face the real leader of Team Star. Penny? Ugh! Who could have seen this coming? For some reason, even though we're friends, she ends up forcing us into a battle? I don't know. Her lead Umbreon goes down to a close combat, then Flareon and Sid have a back and forth battle until the Fire Dog takes itself out with its own recoil. From here, we send in Smashanna against Vaporeon, who tries to use Quick Attack on our ghostly ape, which obviously is not going to work, so we get a ton of damage with Seed Bomb. Then after getting our attack dropped by Baby Doll Eyes, we take it out with some more seeds. From here, Penny brings in Jolteon, and we swap to Sid after getting paralyzed by Thunder. We make it drowsy with the yawn, then swap to Banana Bow, but go down to a Thunder on the next turn. But not to worry, on our next attempt, we take out Jolteon with Sid, then Penny sends out her Leafeon, but she must have forgotten that we have the power of Fire Monkey and Anime on our side. So after getting the equivalent of a paper cut from Leaf Blade, Flamethrower makes quick work of this little leafy boy. Finally, her ace Sylveon comes out and goes absolutely Super Saiyan. She hits us with a Moonblast, but we swap to Venomonk, who tanks it like a champ. After we survive being hit by the full power of the moon, we launch our next attack and one-shot Sylveon. With Team Star disbanded, it's time to face our final battle against Nemona. We make amends with our friend turned mafia boss, then head on down to the courtyard for the ceremonial battle. And now, the final battle, Daddy Q versus Nemona. Let's go. We kick it off with Golangatan versus Lycanroc. It goes for an annoying Stealth Rock right off the bat, but falls to a close combat. Next up is Pawmot, who's no match for Golangatan's Giga Impact. But on the next turn, we get owned by Dudunsparce because someone had to recharge. But on our next attempt, we make it all the way back to the Human Centipede and take it out with a close combat. From here, Nemona sends out Earthworm, so I bring in Sid to deal with him. Sid dodges Earthworm's Iron Tail and uses Hammer Arm, taking out half of its HP. but Earthworm still had a ton of fight left in him. Eventually, we swap out Sid for Smash Anna and take it out with a close combat. At this point, we're still healthy enough to land a Screech on Goodra, but after tanking a Dragon Pulse, we had to swap to Banana Bow, who comes in and takes out the Goodra with a single Ice Punch. This is all well and good, but Nemona still had her final and most dangerous Pokemon, Meowscarada. So naturally, we swap back to Pyrochimp as Meowscarada hits us with a Terra-boosted Flower Trick. With our heart and soul, we put everything into our next attack since we know the outcome of this encounter would decide the battle. Would Meowscarada hit us with an attack before I could use Flamethrower? We just closed our eyes and let fate decide. And with that, we get our happy ending. The last storyline, Victory Road, is complete. Wait, who's calling me right now? Arven? Oh yeah, I forgot about Arven. Apparently our friend found a way into the crater in the middle of the continent that I totally told you about before, you remember, right? So we tag along with him to rescue his dad, Professor Turo. But I guess this is supposed to be an Avengers movie or something because Nemona and Penny are also along for the ride. We start dungeon crawling and exploring the abandoned research facilities until we find Professor Turo laying hunched over in an office chair. Just kidding, it's ChatGPT in a human body and the real professor is freaking dead. I think I know who the real final boss is now. He leads me to a time machine that can rip the fabric of the universe apart, and I'm not really cool with the whole multiverse exploding thing, so I want to stop him now, but oopsie, we accidentally angered an alien robot Time Lord. And apparently, this Time Lord uses Pokemon from the future. And in the future, every Pokemon has become a robot for some reason. We had a few attempts where we went back and forth with our robotic overlord, and we did our best against his iron Pokemon. Eventually, after tons of struggle, we get a good attempt. We lead with Banana Bow against his lead Iron Moth and immediately take it out with a 4 times effective dig. He brings in Iron Hands, so we swap to Smash Anna, who's immune to its fake out. From here, we're able to take it out with a Seed Bomb in a close combat. We end up taking big damage from a critical Thunder Punch while doing this, so we bring in Passimian after Turo swaps to Iron Bundle. We take a couple of hits in the process, but manage to one-shot it with a super effective close combat. Next up, he sends out Iron Jugulis. At this point, we're too low to stay in, so we bring Ambipom back in to smack this thing with a couple Ice Punches to take it out. Turo brings in Iron Thorns, so we swap to Pyrochimp to one-shot it with a close combat, and finally, he's down to his last Pokemon, Iron Valiant. We bring in Sid to chill out as this Gardevoir wannabe smacks away at us and almost kills Sid with a Brick Break. But we manage to get off a yawn, then swap to Venomonk, who comes in and survives a Brick Break as the Iron Valiant falls asleep. At this point, it's a sitting duck, and a single Sludge Bomb is more than enough to finish it off. And just like that, we've done it. We were able to overcome all odds and beat Pokemon Violet using only monkey Pokemon. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. Till next time.